Number 6. The Aghori Sect. Like with many other scary cults, the origin of the Aghoris is a well-kept secret. In fact, it's so secretive that all the information available about the sect's history is based on speculations. According to these speculations, the Aghori tradition was formed when two radical sects of Hinduism, Kapalika and Kalamuka, merged. Kind of like if ISIS and North Korea had a baby, but with no bomb action and way too many human sacrifices. So what exactly is it about the Aghori that has everyone shaking in their boots? Well, for starters, they were really big on sacrificing humans to the Hindu god Shiva. They also had very questionable taste in food, and were particularly interested in eating, there's no easy way to say this, dead people. As for living arrangements, Aghoris were typically found dwelling around cremation grounds, casually sipping water and soup from human skulls. Modern-day Aghoris, yes, they allegedly still exist somewhere in northern India, credit a man named Baba Kinaram with being the founding father of the sect. It is said that Kinaram lived for 150 years, and he became a big deal immediately after he was born. You see, legend has it that he was born with a full set of teeth. He also didn't cry or eat until 3 days after his birth, when a group of monks visited his home and convinced him to do so. If you're wondering how that went down, me too. Number 5. Aztec cult of Huitzilopochtli worshippers. Huitzilopochtli is quite a mouthful, so we'll just call him the Aztec sun god from now on, which is kind of what he was. He was also the god of war, so think of it like he worked 2 jobs that made him super important. The Aztec sun god was the patron god of the Mexica tribe, who are now part of modern-day Mexico, and he actually started out as a hunting god. As the Mexica tribe grew in influence, so did the sun god because, well, he was their tribal god. The Mexica people believed that the god literally battled his way across the sky each day just so the sun would rise. They believed that if he ever lost the battle, the sun would just cease to exist or something. In an attempt to express their gratitude to the sun god, the Mexica people turned to human sacrifices. Needless to say, thank you cards weren't a thing back then. They often sacrificed prisoners of war and had a very specific procedure for carrying out the sacrifice. It typically began with the victims' abdomens being split open and ended with their hearts being ripped out and lifted up in Simba style. The Aztec sun god was worshipped at Templo Mayor, the main temple of the Mexica people. And according to records taken in 2020, archaeologists have found a total of 603 human skulls in the temple's archaeological zone. Number 4. Korowai Tribe. The activities carried out by the Korowai Tribe is the stuff of nightmares, and what's truly horrifying is that some of these practices are still ongoing to this day. The Korowai Tribe occupy the forest region of southeastern Papua. They live in tree houses, relying heavily on hunting for food and wear little to no clothes. They were blissfully ignorant about the existence of any other humans on Earth until the 1970s, and honestly, I kind of envy that. Not knowing about the existence of other humans kept the Korowai people from participating in World War I, II, and everything in between. But there was an evil residing among them. They were big believers in the spiritual realm, and spirits in general. The villain of their spirit universe was an evil demon called Hakua. Apparently, Hakua had the ability to possess a person's body, eat them from the inside, and then turn them into sorcerers. Exorcisms weren't a thing just yet, so the Korowai people came up with a solution to stop Hakua. They decided they would kill and eat the possessed people before Hakua got a chance to. Think of it as a way to beat him at his own game. Since it was believed that Hakua could possess just about anyone, no one was safe. The kicker is that the young people under the age of 13 were not allowed to consume the flesh because eating Hakua carried the risk of contracting diseases. Well, at least they were looking out for the kids. Number 3. The Mayan People. Much like all the other cults on this list, the Mayan people had some pretty wild beliefs. They believed in many deities and had a god for just about everything you can think of, including maize. No, seriously, they had a maize god. Seeing how they had gods for everything, it shouldn't come as a surprise that the Mayan people had quite a number of rituals, with each one turning out to be scarier than the last. At the top of the list is human sacrifices, and boy did they come up with creative ways to do it. Whenever the Mayan people were to host an important celebration, like the dedication of a major project of the enthronement of a new king, they had to give a human sacrificial offering. The preferred victim for such an occasion would be the ruler of an enemy tribe. After being captured, the man would be tortured, beaten, burnt, and then he would lose his head. Literally. Remember the maize god I talked about? Turns out he had his head chopped off by the Maya death gods. The Mayan people seemed to think this was cool, so they created an entire ritual to reenact that fateful incident as many times as possible. If you think that's gory, there's more. The Mayan people relied heavily on crops, and so they were willing to do anything to remain in the good books of Chak, the god of rainfall. By anything, I mean they didn't think twice about tossing children between the ages of 3 and 11 into sacred sinkhole caves as a way to communicate with their precious god Chak. It was believed that Chak liked small things, and so they decided toddlers and preteen boys were just the thing. Before being thrown into their watery graves, some of the boys would be subjected to extreme punishment. Number 2. Leopard Society. Yes, you heard right, and it's exactly what it sounds like, or maybe a little bit worse. The Leopard Society is said to have been active in West and Central Africa between the years 1890 and 1935. Now, depending on who you ask, the society was either made up of people who could use witchcraft to transform themselves into leopards, or people who wanted to be leopards so bad that they went out of their way to make robes out of leopard skin and design weapons to mimic leopard claws and teeth. Whatever version you believe, the cult's modus operandi was pretty much the same. Members would go out, find unsuspecting victims who turned out to be travelers more often than not, and then attack them in a manner that closely mirrors a leopard attack. After the kill, the cult members would take back blood and flesh from their victim to the society's meeting grounds, and have what can only be described as a very bloody and very gross feast. Rumor has it that new intakes were required to bring back a bottle of blood from their victim, and then drink it in front of the group to secure their place. So, hazing, but for gross human vampires. If you aren't grossed out just yet, there's more. Members of the Leopard Society were known to make an elixir from parts of their victims, which they would all drink together because they believed it strengthened not just them, but their entire tribes. In recent times, people have started to see the Leopard Society in a different light, and that's because a handful of experts have come out to say all available information should be taken with a pinch of salt. For starters, it's possible that the Leopard Man didn't actually eat their victims. But hey, I guess we will never know. Number 1. Simbari People. As far as this list goes, you've seen the bad and the very bad. Now it's time to get into the ugly, and quite frankly, very disturbing. The Simbari are a mountain-dwelling tribal people who reside in Papua New Guinea. Being born male in this tribe is all it takes to be initiated into what is perhaps the scariest cult in the world. The men of the Simbari tribe are all subjected to a barbaric initiation ceremony that begins when they are between 7 and 9 years old. The first step is to forcefully separate them from their mothers, who are thought to possess superpowers that enable them to control men. I am not sure this is what girl power means. The secret to this power is said to be in the woman's blood, and that's why the next step, once the young boys are taken, is bloodletting. Making the boys bleed is thought to be the only way to free them from their mother's control. What follows next is a series of activities that can be summed up to unspeakable torture. At the end of the first set of rites, the boys are taken to a cult house with older men inside. Then, men put on an elaborate suggestive performance. And then, the boys are expected to drink man milk from the men because it's essential for male development. Excuse me while I throw up a little in my mouth. As I said, this is just the end of the first phase. The next set of rites and rituals consists of more unspeakable torture that eventually come to an end after the wife selected for the young man gives birth to their first child. Your life may be hard, but hey, at least you're not Simbari. That's it for this video. See you in the next one.